All right. Good morning, everybody. This is Terrence from Autosimply. Uh, as Robert mentioned, there is some. I was seeing some lag in the refresh of the screen, so I'll try to speak a bit more slowly so that the screen can catch up. So for today, we have scheduled this for a 1.5 hour session to go through in depth manufacturing order module by Autosimply, which we have, of course, developed for Sage 300. So for the purpose of today's training, I would just assume that everybody here is new to the product. Uh, uh, and then hopefully that would help those who has never seen the product at all, who might not have an idea of what it does. So bear with me as I go through the features, and I'll try to make sure to highlight the changes that we have made from version 6.5 to the more current version 6.7. And I'll try to also mention what we plan to change and add moving forward to the next upcoming version, which is, of course, 2021 already. So with that, just a very quick introduction on manufacturing order, or MF as we call it. So this module is developed using Sage SDK exclusively for Sage 300. So that means we don't work with any other Sage platforms or any other ERP product out there in the market. It's only for Sage 300. Our modules are designed to be backward compatible. So right now, our most current version is version 6.7 or 2020, and we are compatible with the older version of Sage, which is Sage, let's say 2014, up until the current 2020. For 2021, we're still doing some tests, but historically, we have never had a compatibility issue with Sage 300. So we're actually quite confident to say that uh, we're compatible even with the newest version of Sage 300. So with that, I won't spend too much time on setup and activation. For those who are really new to the product, I'll just quickly highlight that our product is designed to be the built-in manufacturing module for Sage 300. What it means is uh, our product installs the same way as any Sage 300 module. So you install, it will go into the Sage 300 program file. Uh, my screen is not refreshing. I actually went to the Explorer, File Explorer, I mean, and I was just trying to show you that the system would install to the same program path as Sage. Hopefully, it's refreshing for most of you. Uh, I can see in my screen that it hasn't refreshed yet, so we might have to give it some time. All right. So you're looking at File Explorer. I was just highlighting that when we install the product, it goes into Sage 300 program path under MF67A, which is as you would expect with all the DLL files and all of the RPT files in Crystal. So from there, actually after installation, you would see that all you have to do is activate our module the normal way using admin services. The one thing that is a bit unique to our product is that we have our own DB setup. So this is actually under the setup icon of our product. And inside, we do need you to define the server name or IP address and the database ID to go with it. Uh, okay, so it's actually going into the DB setup. So this is actually very similar to what you define in Sage 300 database setup. And this only allows us to talk directly to the Sage 300 database. So even though we do have our own database setup, be assured that uh, everything that we post actually goes into the same Sage 300 database. We just created this link so that we can run some SQL query scripts to speed up the processing. But we need this to be defined so that the system can properly connect to Sage 300 database, I mean. So whenever you set up a new database, or when you install for the very first time, activate, don't forget to maintain the MF database setup. Now, as we said, the product is meant to be the built-in manufacturing module for Sage 300. What it means is that we take full advantage of the data that already exists within Sage. So by data, I'm referring here to the operation modules of Sage. So for most of you guys, you would be very familiar already with the inventory control module of Sage. Uh, that we make full use of the data inside. So that includes the item master, the stock balances, the costs, even the lot serial control of Sage 300 is followed by manufacturing. So our product will not let you define duplicate information. So there is no duplicate item master, there is no duplicate stock balances, there is no duplicate costing. Everything in terms of inventory control is handled by Sage 300 IC module. So the same goes for the sales cycle. So we make full use of order entry. So you would create sales orders, do shipments, invoicing the same way as how you would be doing it in Sage. For raw materials, you buy them using Sage purchase order module. So you create the PO, you receive, you invoice the normal way. So we don't replace anything on those three modules. So for manufacturing, the assumption is you would have already defined all your items in Sage Item Master. That is why we actually start off with our presentation today on the bill of material. So this is the only thing that we actually don't use in IC, which is the BOM. So for some of you, you might be familiar with IC BOM. So in manufacturing order, we have replaced that. We don't use it. And the main reason is because we wanted to add more functionality to the bill of material. So I'm just opening an example. Okay, I'm just waiting for the screen to refresh. Hopefully it's not as slow for everybody. So for the bill of material, some people, of course, will call this a recipe or formulation, but essentially it is what you need to do to produce a product, consuming what materials are needed. So materials could be raw material, could be packaging material, could be semi-finished goods. So for the BOM, you would notice that the bill of materials screen for Autosimply allows you to define multiple BOM numbers and revision numbers to produce the same product. So just to quickly compare that versus the IC BOM that you might be familiar with. In IC, you have the BOM code or the BOM number, but that's only one field. In Autosimply, we actually support two, which is the BOM number and the revision number. The combination of the item number, the BOM number, and the revision number gives us a unique BOM record. So for most companies, big changes to the BOM would be a different BOM number, and then small changes could be a revision number. Notice how we also have here a bomb status. So this flag allows us to control whether a bomb would be actively used in the system or not. So that means for a typical manufacturer, initially a new bomb being created would have a status of under development. And then once it's ready for use, it would be changed to approved. If something goes wrong, it would be set to on hold, so that prevents further processing of orders. And then lastly, once let's say the product becomes obsolete, we can set it to discontinued. Another field here that some of you might be familiar with is called the standard batch size. So this batch size is very similar to what the IC bomb build quantity represents. So this is the proportion between the product, how much product is produced using how much of components. So for most, let's say, electronic companies, the standard batch size will be one. So one computer, one calculator, one product. But let's say if we're dealing with uh, let's say a process industry, let's say a food manufacturer, then the tendency would be the batch size would be for a batch. So it could be 100 kilos, 100 meters, or 100 square feet of something. So that's the batch size. One major difference between the IC bomb and the manufacturing bomb would be the operation tab. So I clicked on the operation tab. It should refresh soon on your end. And here you would see what we call operations. Some clients or some partners would call this item routing or routing. Essentially, it's just telling us what steps or process are involved in producing the product. So in my example, I'm showing two operations. I have operation 100, which is assembly, and then operation 200, which is packaging. Let me just double check if, okay, it just refreshed from your side. So for each operation, you would notice how the operation code 100, for example, is linked to a specific work center one. So imagine if this is a manufacturing environment, then when I'm doing assembly operation, typically I would need a assembly machine or assembly work center or production line to do it. The same goes with packaging. So as I do packaging, I would need a packaging machine or work center to do packaging. Notice how we could define standard times for each operation. So for example, when I'm doing packaging, here I could set up the system that I would expect to need zero point 0.2 hours or minutes to do the setup for each unit of the product. So whether it's piece, kilo, or meter, how many minutes or hours does it take to produce that one unit? For some industries, they have a need for cleaning prior to the setup. So notice how here we can set up a standard cleanup time as well. So again, this could be in hours or minutes. So for each operation, we would have a standard time, which is useful for cost calculation as well as planning. Aside from the operation information, notice how we have at the bottom left corner of the screen, what we call resources. So this resource referred to non-inventory costs that are associated with the production process. So a very good example of this would be labor, whether it's run labor or setup labor or overhead, subcontract cost. So we can define any number of resources, link them to the work center so that whenever a operation uses a work center, the system can then automatically populate what resources will be assumed to be consumed. So notice how the resources would refresh as I move from one operation to the other. So assembly can have its own resource. So imagine assembly having a run labor different from packaging, which would have a packaging run labor or setup labor. That is the operation tab. The next tab that I would focus on is the component tab. So this is a bit similar to the bill of material list that you might be familiar with in IC-BOM. Here I could define what materials are needed to produce this product. In my example here, I actually included one semi-finished good, let's say 2 direct raw material items, and 2 indirect packaging materials, for example. Notice how for each component, it is linked to an operation code. So that means the system knows at what stage of production is the material needed. So that means from a warehouse control perspective, I could issue materials to the production floor based on operation if we wanted to. The quantity column here indicates how much of each component is needed to produce the batch size of the product. Location code refers to the Sage IC location where we source raw materials from. So unlike in IC-BOM, where you are forced to limit assembly transactions to a specific location code, in manufacturing, you can actually source each component from a different location. The system would know by default where each material would be coming from. And of course, we can even still change this during the actual MO processing or issuing of material. So let me just scroll to the right a bit. So here you can also see a column called percent scrap. So this is another feature that we have that IC-BOM cannot support. When we say percent scrap, we are actually referring here to expected losses during production that the system needs to take into account. So if I put in here a value of 10%, what it means is that from a planning and cost calculating perspective, the system would need to add 10% more. So depending on the industry, this could be referring to, let's say, spillage, loss, or unavoidable damages being done during production process. It prevents shortages when we do production runs because there's already an allowance that we apply. It's also quite similar to yield percentage. So some clients, they actually refer to this as yield percentage, where they say, let's say, for example, that a production process would have a 90% yield percentage. So that means they expect roughly 10% loss. However, when we use yield percentage, it can only be expressed as a property of the product, and it assumes that the 10% loss is applied throughout the BOM. So in Autosimply, just to make it more flexible, what we have done instead of yield percentage is put a percent scrap. So if we put 10% for a specific item only, then only that component will have that 10% loss. So a good example could be during production run, the loss is only happening at the assembly step. So that means on the packaging operations, maybe there won't be any loss. And by using this method, we can prevent that, or we can at least support that functionality. Now, for those who are quite familiar with manufacturing order already, you will notice that in the latest versions of MF, we have actually added 3 more columns there under the component tab. We have included a unit cost field, extended cost field, and a scrap cost field. So this is just to simplify or share this information with the R&D team as they create their bombs, so they could see the breakdown of the rolled up standard cost for the finished good item. Now, aside from the components and operation tabs, we do also have a version tab. So this version tab is meant to serve as the bridge between the ERP BOM and your PDM or PLM solution. So PDM refers to Product Development Management Solutions. PLM is Product Lifecycle Management Solutions. A more commonly heard term is like AutoCAD. So if the client has to design certain products using AutoCAD, typically you have data that resides either on the AutoCAD solution or on the PDM, PLM solution. And the version tab is mainly meant to bridge the ERP BOM that we use versus the BOM drawings that they have in their PLM solution. So one thing to highlight here is that we don't market manufacturing order as a PDM, PLM solution. So we only define the BOM for use in ERP. We can only bridge information between the two solutions using this version tab. We also have here an instruction tab where the client can define any number of instructions or comments that they want to link to this BOM record. So that means when they create a manufacturing order or a job order, they can use this instruction tab specific to that BOM record to show there what they should do, what they should not forget, what they have to do next in certain steps. Now, the next tab here is co-product. So this is, again, something that IC BOM cannot support. The purpose of a co-product in manufacturing is that it accounts for recyclable or scrap items that are produced together with the main product. So it could be, let's say, for the metal industry or the steel making industry, whenever they cut steel or metal, or whether it's plastic or leather, there would always be some trimmings. And this trimmings, maybe there's some value to that. The client wants to track how much scrap or recyclable items are produced during the production run. These co-products, as we call it, are received into stock in IC and can be sold or reused at a later time. So in the newer version of MF, we actually now allow you to define costing for this co-product. So for the longest time, we have always told partners that one of the limitation of co-products is that it will always be received to stock at zero cost. But now in the newer versions of MF, in the MF options, we can actually set up the system to receive co-products at standard cost, and or actually let the system distribute the costs proportionally based on the quantity produced for the main product versus that of its co-products relative to standard costs. So now there are actually 3 cost methods that we can apply for co-product. This is something that we have added on version 6.7. So I'll try to show that to you later on. So there is one quick question here about linking drawings to shop floor. So for shop floor, that's actually a separate module in manufacturing. It's maybe just for those who have no idea. For the manufacturing suite of Autosimply, it's actually comprised of 4 modules. So you have the manufacturing order module, we have a production planning module, there is a option for a manufacturing lot add-on, as well as shop floor control. So just to quickly answer that question, the drawing can only be linked to the BOM. And then the BOM is linked to the manufacturing order, which is in turn linked to shop floor. So essentially, the answer would be yes. There's a drawing that can be linked to shop floor. However, the limitation would be going back to the version tab. You would notice that I could only link one drawing to the BOM record. So if the question is implying that I would have a lot of drawings that might be specific to a operation within the shop floor control module, then this won't be sufficient. So one common or one thing that we would suggest is maybe instead of thinking of adding more source documents here, what you could do is make use of document manager by ORCID and link multiple documents to the BOM. Okay, so that's just one of the things that you could do in terms of drawings being linked to BOM. But again, just to be very clear, out of the box, we only allow one source document to be linked to the BOM. All right. And then there's another question regarding BOM numbers. So how many revisions could be supported in the BOM? So the quick answer to that is it's unlimited. You can have as many BOMs, BOM number or revision number linked to a product. Notice that there is only one default BOM. So even if you have 10 bills of material for the same product, only one would be default. And then you can have all 10 as approved. So that means the production personnel can actually have the flexibility to use any of those approved BOMs. One quick thing to highlight here is notice that aside from the BOM status, we also have effective dates. So that means it's possible for you to have an approved BOM, which is scheduled to be discontinued by, let's say, end of the year. So on January 1, 2021, the user won't be able to use that particular BOM if you have set it up to be discontinued. Now, just one quick reminder here, the dates referred to here in the BOM is being compared versus the server date. So that means, of course, for clients, this is not an issue. We assume server date is the right date. But for partners, just note when you do demonstrations, some of you tend to use like 2021 or 2022 as the session date. And if you create a BOM with an ineffective date, then that won't show up during your presentation. So just be careful about that. All right, so there's another question regarding percent allow column in the BOM component page. So let me just go back there. So I'm just waiting for the screen to refresh so that you won't get lost. So a while ago, in relation to this, we were talking about the percent scrap. So I hope percent scrap is clear. But for percent allow, this is actually a reference field that we have added into the BOM component tab. It does not affect the system in any way, but the practical usage of it is sometimes when we outsource to subcontractors, there need to be a like a negotiated allowance for loss. And this is our intention here. So you could put a value on the percent allow field for use in reporting or doing some analysis, but it does not affect the BOM or manufacturing order in any way. So there's one more question. When the discontinued date arrives, okay. So the question was, if we have set up the discontinued date, will it automatically change the status of the BOM to discontinued upon arriving at that date? The quick answer to that is no. It won't automatically change the status, but the logic of the system is actually looking at both the status and the effectivity date of the BOM. So still, if the discontinued date is or if the BOM, if the system date is beyond the discontinued date, then the system will not allow you to use that BOM anymore, even if the status here is approved. So just to be clear, we don't update the status. That one has to be done manually. All right. So that was just fielding some questions in connection to the bill of material. The last tab there is just optional field, so I won't spend too much time on that. Most of you guys already know what optional fields are in Sage, and this particular optional field is, of course, linked to the BOM, just in case there are information relevant to the BOM different from the item. But in our experience, most clients actually put optional fields on the item rather than the BOM. Now, that's the bill of material. The last thing I just want to highlight here is that notice we have a copy BOM function. So just in case somebody asks how many revisions of BOM we can do, this copy function here allows you to copy one BOM to a new record. You can then change, and then it's the faster way of maintaining BOMs, assuming that the products are quite similar in nature. Now, while talking about the copy BOM, just be aware that under the periodic processing, we do have copy BOM to IC function as well. So even though we don't use IC BOMs, we don't use IC assemblies, we have added this functionality here to let you copy bills of material in manufacturing order to IC BOM for whatever purpose that may serve the client. So notice how when I open the copy BOM to IC function, I have here the option to actually source it from a BOM record or even an MO. So one particular usage of this is sometimes some clients need to do disassembly. So manufacturing order does not really do disassembly. We don't have a disassembly step, but we know that IC has. So instead of duplicating that functionality, what we have done is added a function for you to copy a BOM record, either from a bill of material or from an actual MO, copy it to IC, and then let you do IC disassembly or assembly even in inventory control. So just know that it's there. Another quick thing about BOMs is note that we do have a BOM import utility. So we expect all of the BOMs to be imported into the system via this utility rather than the standard Sage file import export function. The reason for that is because we found that there's a limitation in Sage replace function on the third level of data. So our BOMs has three levels. So the BOM header, the BOM operation, and the BOM resource. So if you just use the file import export function, there could be some problem when you try to replace the resource data. So instead of the file import export, what we want you to use instead is the BOM import utility. So essentially it's the same. We even provide for templates. So what we want to happen is you should create manually first one example of a BOM, export it out. You can then see how it looks like from a data perspective, copy paste it to the template, and then import using this tool. All right. There's one quick question about disassembly. So the question was, wouldn't the reverse MO be the same as disassembly? And the quick answer to that is actually the reverse MO would reverse the whole MO. So if the disassembly is just to be partial, so for example, I have an MO for 1,000, somebody wants to disassemble one. So if you use reverse MO, then it would reverse all 1,000 of them. So if the need is just one, then the quickest way to do it is via disassembly routine stage, maybe by copying the MO BOM. All right. Now, going back to the bills of material, let me also highlight here that we do have a substitute item table. And here I can define substitutes that can be used during the production processing. Your screen is not yet refreshing, but the substitute item here is very similar to maybe the OE alternate item. The main difference is the OE alternate item is mainly reports only. For substitute, we can define materials that can be used to replace other materials if there's not enough stock during the MO issuance stage. So, yep, I can see the screen just refreshed. I just want to highlight here that we can define the proportion. So maybe depending on differences in concentration or dimension, you might have to use more or less of the substitute, and this is something that we can define. Another quick thing to highlight here is notice that we have a separate standard cost definition. So for most of you, you would be familiar with the standard costs being defined in the IC location detail table in inventory control. And the main limitation of that standard cost field is that it doesn't have a breakdown. So when you define standard costs in IC, it's only a total. But for the purposes of manufacturing, we need to be able to break down the standard cost of a product in the different cost buckets that we are showing you right now. So you have material costs, you have packaging material cost, you have setup labor cost, run labor cost, overhead cost, subcontract cost, and tool costs. So the idea here is that we want the users to define standard costs via this screen. So anything that is purchased, let's say for example, raw materials or packaging materials, they should define standard costs in the NF item cost maintenance instead of manually calculating the standard cost of assembled items. In NF, we actually have a under the periodic processing, a BOM cost rollup function. So this routine will automate the refreshing of standard costs for all assembled items, whether it's a semi-finished good or a finished good item. So every time, let's say for most companies, standard costs are updated on a yearly or maybe quarterly basis. So the process should be the cost accountants define the standard costs for the packaging and raw material costs in the item cost maintenance. They would then trigger a BOM cost rollup. This automatically calculates the standard costs for finished goods and semi-finished goods from top to bottom. And if the intent is to use standard costing as costing method in Sage, we also provided a copy standard cost function to IC. So this routine will allow you to synchronize the costs or the standard costs of inventory control and that of manufacturing order. We actually even have here a copy item costs from IC function. So this is assuming, or in case the client wants to use, let's say, the average cost or the last cost in IC to serve as their standard costs for the raw materials and packaging materials. So all of this are found in the periodic processing of MF. So at this point, let me just jump to the transactions. So here, I just clicked on the visual process flow chart in Sage, where we have created one for manufacturing. And here, I just want to highlight options that we have in processing a manufacturing order. So your screen should be refreshing any moment now, showing you the process flow for manufacturing. So here you can see we have several ways of creating a production run. The most common way would be to do it the long way, which could be as many as 5 steps. So the first step that you can see here is creating an MO. So MO refers to manufacturing order. It is the same as job orders, production orders, or maybe work orders. We call it manufacturing order. It is the control document that we use to track all material issuances and receipts. The role of the supervisor or the planner is to create the manufacturing order. Once we have that order, the next step would be to issue raw materials or semi-finished goods to produce that product. There could be a third step, which is returns. So if, let's say, there was any excess materials at the end of the production run, or maybe the production run was canceled, or maybe some damage, we could do a return of raw materials to the warehouse. Eventually, something would be produced. So this would be recorded via the receipt assembly step. And then eventually, the order would be completed. So that would be handled by the closeout process. So depending on the speed of the production run, so if the client production runs would take 2-3 days or 1 week or 2 weeks to be completed, then the long way would be the best approach to do it. This allows us to record what is happening on the floor as it happens. Aside from the 5-step process, there is a way to simplify it via what we call backflush. So backflush actually combines issuance, receipts, and can even do a closeout if we have defined the system to support auto closeout. So from 5 steps, we can actually just do it in 2 steps if we wanted to. So this backflushing is done in situations where the production process is relatively fast. So that means maybe the production can be completed within 1 shift or within 1 day. And instead of recording separately the issuance and receipts associated with that order, the client would just opt to wait until the end of the shift or the end of the day to record everything in one go. So we call that backflush, and that's the second option for us to process an order. The third way is what we call Kanban, or just in time. Some people call it JIT. which is just in time. For just in time, it's actually a one-step process. It's very similar to IC assembly for those of you who are familiar with inventory control of Sage. The main difference with IC assembly is that Kanban allows for variance. So you would know that in Sage, one of the major limitations of IC assembly is that it assumes perfect production runs. So there is no variance in terms of output, no variance in terms of input. So in the real world, this is actually quite hard to accept. If there's always something that goes wrong, or some materials are consumed more or less than expected. So for Kanban, the intent here is for it to be used on small assemblies that happens on the production run. Typically, the process here is what we call a pool production, wherein nobody is telling them that they need to produce. It's based primarily on replenishment. As something is consumed, the workstation would automatically start production to replace it already, and they produce up to a certain stock level, minimum stock level that they want to maintain. So this is like an automatic replenishment routine, and the Kanban is meant only to record what was consumed to produce the quantity that was already completed. So it's a one-step process that the client can use. Underneath, we actually have a fourth method of processing. It's called batch MO. So it's very similar to the five-step process, except that instead of producing one product, the batch MO is designed to handle multiple products being assembled at the same time. So a very good example of batch MOs would be, let's say, slipping or cutting of, let's say, steel rolls or paper rolls. So essentially, the client might start off with one big roll of paper or steel with a length of, let's say, 100 centimeters. And then from that roll, they might need to cut it into 50, 25, 25 centimeter rolls. So instead of creating 2 or 3 separate MOs, the batch MO can actually handle this and automatically calculate the consumption of materials on a proportional basis for each cut. So that's batch MO. So at this point, let me just quickly show you an example for the benefit of those who has not seen it yet. So right now, I just opened the manufacturing order screen. So this is something like SO order entry. So you just want to tell the system what should be produced, when, and how many. So I'm just waiting for your screen to refresh. Let's say I want to produce finished good number 3 for a quantity of 10. Notice how we have here the BOM version selection field. So to the person who asked about BOM versions early on, if you have more than one approved BOM, and assuming that all of them have effective dates, then I would see here a list of BOMs that I can choose from. Yep, I can see that your screen is not yet refreshing, but yeah, I was just talking about the BOMs that can be chosen. If, let's say, you forgot to change the BOM status to approved, or you have set the effective date to be beyond the server dates, then you would see here a blank BOM. You don't have a BOM to choose from for this MO. We have here in the order entry screen the order date. So this is when we expect to start production. The due date is when we expect production to be completed. And then here we also have what we call production area. So the production area actually refers to the production floor or factory floor that we expect to produce this product. So you can create or define as many production areas as you want in manufacturing order. We can then, the main purpose for that is eventually you can create reports on a per production area basis, but also know that we actually support record level security at the production area data level. So that means you can have users that have the rights to issue material, but then we want to restrict that right to only certain production areas. So that's something that can be supported in manufacturing module. At this point, I can add this order. So now the system has created order number 23. And if I click on the material tab, this would actually show me what materials would be needed for this MO based on the BOM that I have selected. If I'm just waiting for your screen to refresh. So what I wanted to highlight here is that under the material tab, you would notice that we have a column for quantity per item. This column can actually support up to 9 decimals. So this is just to emphasize that the system is designed to handle very small numbers. So this, I was just referring to the first column over there, which was the quantity per item. Notice that if we have defined a 10% scrap in this example, this 10% is reflected as additional material requirement. Notice as well that the MO BOMs are editable. So if I wanted to, I could actually insert a line or delete a line or even change the quantity per relationship for this MO BOM. So this is how we support make-to-order environments. So if, let's say, your client customizes a lot, maybe they produce white label products, then this is where they could change the label or the color that they would be using for this particular production run. The operation tab is the same. You can edit as needed. If I jump to the total tab, this is where we would see the standard cost, projected cost, and actual costs for this MO. So projected here is based on the standard cost of each component in the MO rolled up to the product. Standard cost is based on the item cost maintenance or standard cost of this finished good item. Actual cost, as the title implies, is the actual cost of issuance to this order. So here, yep. So I just want to quickly highlight, because this order has not yet been released, you would notice that the actual quantity for material cost is still 0. And of course, this would change once we start issuing. So there's one quick question here. Does IC need to be set up to allow fractional quantities? For most clients, this option is actually enabled, mainly because they would deal with certain components with fractional quantities. However, if of course the client can be sure that there is no fractional relationship in their BOMs, then it's okay. It's not required to be enabled as long as they are sure. Remember that the BOM has a proportion of the components versus the quantity to be produced, and that means you're dividing things. There's a division formula there. So you might get into trouble if this field is not activated. But again, just to be clear, technically, you don't need to activate allow fractional quantities. But in most cases, it is activated. All right. So that was the MO entry. It's just like creating a sales order or a PO in Sage. Eventually, somebody would approve that order. And when it's approved, the system actually keeps track of who approves it and when. And this is the only time this MO information is shared throughout the company. When the status was new, it could only be visible or viewed by the production managers, supervisors who has access to the MO entry screen. Once the MO is approved, these quantities are now available to be seen from a planning point of view, from a stock inquiry point of view, using the material inquiry in manufacturing. Eventually, for it to be actually processed, it needs to be released. So of course, the client or the user can also jump to release if he wanted to, but it's only when the order is released that they can post transactions against it. So now for MO number 23, let's do a quick example of an issuance. So this is now issuing against this production area. Wait, your screen hasn't refreshed yet. So let me just wait for a moment here. So in the issuance step, what we're trying to simulate here is the issuance of materials from the warehouse to the production floor. From an accounting point of view, this is essentially debit WIP, credit raw material. And the issuance step is typically done by the warehouse personnel based on the material requirement of that MO. So you could print out a pick list and the warehouse man can go around and pick as needed. So I actually have two ways of issuing materials. For today, let me just show you the issuance by product, as we call it. And the main objective here is to issue based on a predefined quantity. So in my example, your screen should refresh pretty soon. I ordered 10, so I expect to issue materials enough to produce 10, but maybe for whatever reason, I want to support partial runs. So maybe today I produce 5, tomorrow I produce the balance of 5. So to easily record that in Sage, what we can use is the issuance by product routine, where I can input the quantity, called base quantity of 5. When I click the arrow go button, you would notice that the system is populating the issue quantity to be exactly what I need to produce 5. At this point, of course, the user can change quantities. You can add, you can subtract based on actual material consumption. Notice how the system also highlights to the user how much is on hand for that item. If the item has a substitute, just like PM001, notice how the system would enable the substitute button. And from here, I can actually substitute and use another item to replace PM001. So your screen is not just refreshing yet, but I just opened the substitute item screen where it's showing me that I have 2 substitutes that I can choose from. All right, so it popped up just now. Eventually, I would post, and this is now an issuance in manufacturing. From an inventory control point of view, it means that stock has gone out of IC location. In accounting, it's now recorded as WIP. From a manufacturing point of view, this is recording the issuance of material against the MO. So if we go back to MO number 23 and refresh, I would see that there is no output just yet. So let me just wait for a moment here for your screen to refresh. So yeah. Sorry for the speed. Seems like the refresh rate is getting a bit slower. But I went back to the MO form, so it should refresh any moment now. And what I wanted to highlight here is when I posted the issuance, it does not trigger a production of the finished good item. So there is no output yet. It just recorded that we have issued out raw materials from the warehouse. If I click on the material tab of the MO, I would see that there should now be issued quantities on a per item basis. I can see the percentage issued versus the balance for each component. So the system would have a way to track how much more is allocated to this MO for future issuance. If I click on the history button, it would show me the issuance number 21 that we have just posted, which items were involved, when was it picked, how much was issued out, where was it taken, and actually it would also show us who hosted that transaction. So this is the MO history for that record. So your screen should refresh soon enough. And then the total tab would now show us actual cost. So the cost there, oh wait, your screen hasn't refreshed yet. Okay, you're looking at the history of the MO. From there, I have closed it and then clicked on the total tab of the MO. Here, I just wanted to highlight that when we did the issuance, there is now actual cost for the material. This actual cost could be any costing method in Sage. So if you want to use average cost, FIFO cost, LIFO, lot cost, serial cost, standard cost, all of those costing methods would be supported. All right. At this point, of course, I won't show it anymore because of the speed, but know that this particular issuance has triggered an IC shipment in Sage. That means the stock cards have been updated, stock of raw materials went down, the cost has been issued to WIP, and then all of this would automatically feed into the general ledger module as well. So maybe just to quickly highlight that, let me see if the screen would refresh fast enough. So I'm just going to inventory control, and I wanted to show you one item that we have transacted early on. So let's just wait for your screen to refresh. Okay, so that's the transaction history. And it would eventually show us that the last transaction for PM001 is recorded as an IC shipment. It should refresh soon enough. So there was a question whether all items on the BOM have to have the same costing method, let's say average or standard costs. So actually, technically, we can support any costing method. In Sage, technically, you can have different costing methods per item. So that would be respected by the manufacturing order module. We make use of the costing method defined in IC item. But before I go there, before I forget, so I was just showing the transaction history inquiry in Sage, and you can see that the last record there is issuance 21, type is shipment for quantity of 5, issued at that cost. And if I double click on that, it would show me the issuance number 21, which is the same document as the issuance that we have done early on. Under the comment column, I could also even see the source document of this transaction, which is MO number 23. So again, the screen is refreshing. Let's just wait for that. Going back to the costing method question. So as I said, the system can handle any costing method for any item. The one limitation is day-end processing. So for those of you who are familiar with IC options, you know that during the old times, we were using day-end processing and only started to use costing on posting. Let's say, I think it was 5.3 or 5.0. I don't know, I think it's 5.0. So ACPAC 5.0 started to have costing on posting. So if you are using day-end processing, then the costing method that we support is either all average or all standard cost only. So the use of day-end process, in effect, limits the costing method that the system can handle. And the reason for this is because, as you might know, the day-end processing logic of Sage is it would calculate all incoming items first. So receipts of finished goods, receipts of raw materials, before it allocates the cost of all outgoing items. Let's say shipments in OE and MO issuances. For sales, it's okay, but for manufacturing, obviously, it won't work because the cost of the finished good product coming in should be the total of what was issued out. So the day-end processing cannot be applied to manufacturing in that sense. So to go around that, what we have done is we have limited it to average cost and standard cost. The reason is if it's average cost, then at the point of issuance, the system already calculates the average cost based on quantity on hand and cost on hand in IC location details. All right, so that's the quick explanation why. If you are using day-end processing, then the costing method that the system would support is limited to only either all average or all standard. If you are using costing on posting, which I believe most clients, or at least the newer ones, would be using, then we can support all costing methods. And it can even vary per item. The system will be able to handle it normally. All right. So the next step, let me just go back to the transaction process flow. So what I have done was issued. The return is just the opposite of issuance. So it's just simulating something being returned from the production floor back to warehouse. So let's just skip that for now. Let's jump to the receipt. So yeah, the screen is very slow. So let's just wait for a moment for it to refresh. You should be looking at the receipt screen fairly soon. This is, of course, simulating the receipt of the output of the MO. You can do it across multiple MOs at the same time. Notice the screen should refresh soon to show that we have two items that we can receive. One is the main product, the other is the co-product. So yeah, I can see your screen is about to refresh. So just to do an example of a partial production run, notice that we ordered 10. A while ago, I issued enough materials to produce 5. Maybe by the end of the day, I would then be receiving 5. I would then post And this is now a receipt transaction for manufacturing. So this is the finished good coming into Sage. Uh, from a accounting point of view, this would be a debit finished good, inventory, credit WIP, credit labor, credit overhead. The stock card of inventory control would be updated as well. We make use of IC adjustment to create the ledger entry, and the breakdown is of course based on the standard cost. So that was the receipt step, and then eventually, assuming that we have produced everything, I would just move on to close out that MO. But using the same MO, let me just jump to the backflush to give you a quick feel of what backflushing would do. So for backflush, okay, I'm just waiting for your screen to refresh. So for backflush, here, notice that the system, wait, it's not yet refreshed. So the backflush screen, as I mentioned early on, is combining issuance and receipts into one step. So the system would then, of course, be able to track how much of the order is still outstanding. So I received 5 early on. So if I click on the receive all, this is now receiving the balance for this MO number 23. So that's 5. For the co-product, it assumes that you would receive 0.3, but maybe in the real world, maybe we just produce or receive 0.25. Notice that for the backflush transaction, there is both receipt and issuance tabs. The issuance tab by default is populated based on the proportional requirement quantity of the quantity being produced. But this is just a default. User can go in and make changes as necessary. So your screen should refresh soon enough for the issuance screen. And I could go in and change the quantity of any of this item. So if you change the quantity and it exceeds a preset tolerance, the system can also give you either a warning message or an error message. And at this point, if I click on post, this is just posting a combined issuance and receipt in one step. So that was back flushing. Eventually, when the posting is completed, you would see here that the system actually created 2 separate records, one for issuance, another for receipt. So the screen should refresh soon enough. And then aside from the backflush, let me then quickly show you an example of a Kanban. Oh, somebody asked what was the transfer number in the backflush screen. So for the transfer number, this is referring to a optional transaction under manufacturing, which is transfer MO. So in some of our clients, they don't want to record issuances immediately. Rather, they want the warehouse to transfer goods from their raw material warehouse to maybe a WIP location in Sage. And then they would use backflush to trigger the consumption of the items within the WIP location once something is produced. So this workaround is used for clients who want to be able to track inventory even for WIP items using IC location, valuation, and stock reports. So the transfer is just an option an optional transaction that you can do if you want to move stock based on MO. This is also something that we do if the client wants to reserve stock. So in Sage OE, you have committed quantities, which reserves items to the SO. For MO, we don't have committed quantity. Rather, we have transfer. So we can transfer materials from the normal warehouse to a reserved location against an MO if need be. So going back to Kanban, so this is now the Kanban screen. Again, because we said early on that Kanban is a one-step process, there's no orders being created beforehand. So from the Kanban transaction UI screen, you can see I am just indicating what was produced, how many. The system would then allow me to pick the BOM version that was used. Again, I have to assign it to a production area. If there was no lot or serials to be allocated, I can just click on the verify quantity to make sure that we have enough stock to produce that product. And I could actually just click on post, and that would actually complete the whole cycle already. So in one screen, one transaction, the system will create an MO, issue the finished good item, issue the raw material items, and then receive the finished good item, and then close the order all in one step. However, before I post, I do have the option to click on the detail button, and here I can make changes to the issued quantity. So this is now the major difference between Kanban and IC assembly. In Kanban, even though we're doing everything in one step, it is still possible to have a variance and have it reflect within manufacturing order. All they have to do is go into the detail page and change. Assuming that is okay, I will then post. And this is now creating a Kanban transaction, creating an audit trail for easy tracking. The system, your screen should refresh soon enough, but the system actually created Kanban number 10. And this Kanban number 10 actually reflects as an MO in MO entry. Let me just quickly go there. I would be able to search for a created MO Kanban number 10 with a status of closed already. So let me just wait for the screen to refresh. But what I have done is just go to MO, call out the Kanban record, and here we are looking at the history of that Kanban, where we use only one document number to account for issuance, receipt, and the closeout for that product. So yep, your screen should refresh soon. All right. So unfortunately, we are not able to cover much more information today. It's because of the speed, I have to slow down quite a lot just to make sure that the screen is catching up. So I know that we have only a few minutes left. What I want to do next is just quickly highlight to you changes that we have made in the latest version. So let me go back to one transaction screen. Let me just see if I have it here. So issue by MO. So one of the, aside from the co-product costing functionality early on, another enhancement or major enhancement that we did was we now allow transactions in MO to make use of units of measure. So in the past, for those who are familiar, you would know that we don't support units of measure. But in the new version of MF, you can actually change the transaction unit of measure for issuance, receipt, Kanban, backflush, based on the units of measure that you have defined in the IC item master. So this is now supported. So that means you can create, let's say, a stock keeping unit of measure of piece, but then issue to production in box, crate, or roll if you wanted to. The system now contains units of measure, just like in Sage, that can be referenced in reports in the history file. So that was one major change that we did for the newest version. The only limitation is that we still don't want to have different units of measure in the BOM. So the BOM, I'm referring here to the component tab of the BOM, where you can define the quantity needed for each component. So that unit of measure there is still disabled. We still want to use SKU. And of course, the reason for this, why we don't want to change, is because we are afraid that the user would change the conversion factor in IC item. And this conversion factor is not considered in the BOM when it comes to calculation of costs. So imagine a box from 10 became 12, but there's no way for the BOM to refresh automatically. So we don't allow units of measures in the BOM. But on the transaction side, you can use units of measure in version 6.7. All right. So that was one major change. The other, before I forget, one of the features that we have that I haven't shown yet today is the create MO from OE. So this is an old feature that we have enhanced greatly within the new version 6.7. The major change here involves, let me just see if I have an example here. Sorry. So if you notice, one of the major change is that we now, oh wait, your screen has not yet refreshed. Let me just wait for you for a while. So I'm just waiting for the create MO from OE screen to pop up at your end. The major enhancement there, I won't be able to demonstrate it anymore, but at the very least, I can highlight it today. So you could see now that in this new version of Create MO from OE, there is now an option to create MOs by BOM level. So you should be looking at that field now. So the BOM level field here shows you three options: top level, first level, and all level. So in the past, essentially, when we create an MO from OE, it's only top level. So it's only for the finished good item. In the new version, you can actually select all levels. And if you have a 3-level BOM, the system would then automatically create 3 MOs, 1 MO for each subassembly. Well, in my example, I assume I only have 3 BOMs in that particular BOM. If you have more than 3, 5, or 6 BOMs, the system will just create now MOs for each of those BOMs. So this was one of the requested functionalities for the create MO from OE function, and it's now available in 6.7. In the past, we only do this in the BOM query. So for those of you who are familiar, in the BOM query of MF, we have a create MO, and if you explode the BOMs, you can actually create MOs for each BOM level. In the new create MO from OE, we can do it now as well, based on SO rather than BOM query. So for there's one question about top level and first level. So top level is just the finished good item. So this is like level 0. For the first level, we're talking about just the one level down. So we had a client which has multiple levels of BOM, but they want the MOs to be created automatically only for the first level BOM. So imagine one finished good having 2 subassemblies, then I would get 3 MOs created in the system. Assuming there are more BOM levels underneath, the client can opt to create those MOs manually if they want to. All level will be across the whole BOM from top to bottom. All right. Yes. So there was a question about whether the MOs created would reflect the OE, which serves basis for the MO. We would link the OE number to the MO automatically. But this is only for the top level item, the finished good item. There's no link between the subassembly to the SO, mainly because the item numbers don't match anymore. So it's only for the finished good item that the link would be maintained. But of course, you can create reports, or if you use the MO series function in MF, you would have a good way of looking at the relationship of the child orders. So one more question here is for the first level plus top level. Okay. So the question was the top level, is the top level included on the first level? And the answer is yes. So if I select first level, the system would only consider 2 levels of BOM, the level 0 and level 1, as we would call it. So level 0 is the finished good item, and level 1 would be the maybe the first line of semi-finished goods linked to it. All right. So unfortunately, I think that's the only time that we have allotted tonight for MO training. I wish I could have shown you more and given you more examples, but unfortunately, the internet speed is just not good enough. So we can only do so much. But if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me and Rob, and we're happy to answer questions in much more detail. Also, please join our session on Monday, where Edmund would show you the new barcode and Sales Anywhere modules for Sage 300. Do note that the barcode also supports manufacturing as well as shop floor control. So his presentation would focus more on the sales side of it, the inventory side of it, but know that shop floor is also covered there. All right. So again, thank you guys. Thank you for investing your time with us today. And we hope you found the presentation to be informative and useful.